So anyway, white people are worried that they will be replaced. The statistics says by 2030, 2050, white people play the long game. Let me explain the long game. We as black people, and this is to our detriment, we think in terms of the next paycheck, we think in terms of the next generation. The next president, who odds are might not be Biden, but might be Donald Trump, I'm going to promise you this. So, hey, listen, I read an article today and I found it very disturbing. I don't know if you saw it. I tried to send it to you.
Yeah.
I think these people, I think this country has lost its mind, and I think it has lost its moral compass. The article is about a new law that has been passed by, I think it's Alabama. I believe I have the state right.
Yeah.
Whichever. The my problem with it is this: the gist of the law that was passed is about making of an embryo a person. An embryo by law in this state is considered a person. So I read it and I paused for a minute, like, what are you people talking about? Are you crazy? So let me put it into perspective for you. Those persons who, for those the uninitiated who don't know what an embryo is, an embryo in this case is a female egg, you know, that egg that is produced once a month, and a male sperm. It is placed in what they call a petri dish, a test tube. They introduce the sperm into the egg, which fertilizes the egg. Then now the egg is put in, I think it's liquid nitrogen, and it is frozen for however long, months, years, decades. The purpose of it is, in most cases, women who having difficulties having babies, they have an option of deciding when, where, and how they conceive. Now the process is expensive. It's like $12,000, $30,000.
Is that the same as IVF?
Same process. It's the same IVF thing. Now the thing is this, that the process is expensive, but it's also a process where many families, whether for medical reasons or whatever reasons, there are multiplicity of reasons why people go through this process. It allows people, it's a method of family planning for one, but for more often than not, it's for people who are having difficulties conceiving a baby. There have been instances, there have been stories, for example, where a woman stores her egg, the husband die, she's still in love with the husband, still want to have a family, so she goes, she take the egg out of the storage and they implant it in her, and she have a baby, and yeah, her life continues and she's happy. But what this law is trying to say is these eggs, because they're eggs, these eggs are persons. It's like telling me, so I have a farm and the rooster fertilizes the egg that is inside of the chicken. The chicken lay the egg. Now, when the egg is laid, it's one of two things. You can either put it in a tray for the dinner table, for the breakfast table, or you can put it, leave it in the wherever it is, and in a couple of weeks it hatches into a chicken. But up until that point in time, all you have is an egg. Yeah. Now,
Right.
here's a problem. Here's a problem I have with the law. Given the agenda, and why I say agenda, there is an agenda. There's a principle which says that if you take away the impossible, take away the I think you take away the impossible, you take away the probable, all that is left is the possible. So I am thinking, have these people lost their mind? What are the implications? The implications are these, and there are countless ones, but I highlight the ones that come to my mind readily. If I am going down the road and a woman is pregnant and 6 weeks into her pregnancy, 2 weeks into her pregnancy, and she gets hit by a car, The person who hit her car, whether accidentally or otherwise, that person, that based on the law, that person has just killed two people. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, if the embryo inside of a woman, the embryo, we're not talking about a fetus, we're not talking about a 6 months old baby or a 7 month or whatever it is, an embryo, couple weeks, whatever it is. The law is implicit into the law is that that person is entitled to property. That person is entitled to child maintenance. That person is entitled to, if you're going on the plane, since it's a person, then it's two plane fare. I mean, it sounds crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is. This law came about, and for those of us who don't really follow the news, how did we get here? The law came about because a couple went to one of these clinics, in feature clinics, and they, whether deliberately or accidentally, they handled one of the test tubes. Now, liquid nitrogen is cold enough to freeze steel and make it as brittle as glass. So they handled the thing, they hurt their hand. I think they dropped the test tube. The family whose, what they call it, embryos were stored in the test tube. I think some of them had to be destroyed by the clinic, some of them were broken. They sued. They sued, and based on the outcome of the law, the court has now said all of these embryos that have been destroyed, they were persons. So technically, what the court is saying, if there were a dozen embryos, then whoever destroyed them is charged for a dozen murders. A lot of women who, having successfully become impregnated, they might have one or two successful pregnancies, but they may have a dozen eggs left behind. They may decide, okay, I don't want to have any more kids. Can you destroy them? But under the law, you can't destroy them. Under the
What are you,
law, go
wait?
ahead.
What are you supposed to do with them? In that
What,
specific case of the in that
what are
specific
you
case
supposed
of
to?
the person, yeah.
Yeah,
What are you
what,
supposed to do with them?
I don't know because in what the law is saying is that if I have a dozen fertilized eggs, then first of all, let's look at the absurd part of it. You now have a dozen people in the fridge as prisoners. Yeah, right. You now have a dozen abandoned children, or there's a dozen of my children in the fridge that I can't destroy, so I am responsible for them. I have to
No,
maintain them. I have to continue paying the clinic, and I mean it just goes on and on and on
no,
and on.
no. But question: aren't they just saying that these? I understand that they're saying that it's human. It's
Yeah,
an embryo that is not developed. Aren't they just saying that it's just an embryo that is not yet developed, or it's just a life, or it's just a whatever they call it that has just not yet developed? So you're arguing.
legally, my layman interpretation of what the article is saying and what the law is saying. Legally, these embryos are human beings and they have all rights and privileges as if they were a 1 year old child or 5 year old child. They are humans. So, in other
But
words,
just
we have
like
human
life.
beings stored in the fridge. Yeah?
Yeah, but just no, I just feel like you're kind
So,
of no. I just feel like you're being a little bit dramatic with it
no,
because
I am not being dramatic. I have
no,
the
because
article.
no, because just think about life in general. There are stages to life. So you
Exactly. I totally agree with you.
right.
That's
So
the point.
how are you thinking about okay, if I destroy an embryo, then I'm destroying somebody that I could take a flight with. If I destroy an embryo, then I'm destroying like a whole human like
Human
adult.
being.
No, but you're making
Yeah,
it seem like it's an old adult, but there are stages to life. Like it's a
no, but they're not looking at that because you see, the whole thing is it's a part of the anti-abortion agenda. They are denying women's right to plan the family. You understand what I'm saying? Now,
hmm,
here's a funny thing: the anti-abortion agenda is one-sided. It is skewed towards placing responsibility on the woman, but there's no responsibility on the man who should be. He should bear similar responsibility because he's the one that's going around and spreading his seed, right? But the person who's going to go to jail, as far as I understand, the whole anti-abortion agenda is the woman. And here's another absurdity of the whole of making a fetus a human. There was a woman who was going along the highway, and in the United States they have what they call HOV lanes, high occupancy vehicle lanes. At a certain time of the day, vehicles traveling in those lanes must have two or more passengers. If you're caught in the lane, like from I think six to 8 in the morning and 4 to 6 in the evenings, then you're given a ticket, right? A woman was caught in the lane by the highway patrol. They proceeded to give her a ticket for occupying the HOV lane, and the woman argued that no, 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 sir, there are two of us in the vehicle. I am in the vehicle and my unborn baby is in the vehicle. So how can you give me a ticket? And I think the matter went to court. I am yet to see how that was concluded. But here, these are the slippery slopes that we run into. Airlines should now be charging pregnant women for 2 seats. That's how absurd that you see when you start passing these laws, this is how absurd it becomes. But I'm going to get I forget very controversial, right? So and sometimes I border even on racism. So I'm going to throw something into the mix. Ready? Here's this one. There is a white agenda. I mean, written, talked about, preached about white agenda. White Caucasian people are worried that they'll be replaced by brown people. And it's not news. It is part of the everyday talk. Listen to Donald Trump, listen to the white supremacists. You shall not replace us, right? They are afraid that brown people, non-white, non-Caucasian, Slavic, Viking type people will replace them. Think of maybe Melania Trump or one of them people, them kind of people, right? So there's an agenda, and I admit I still don't understand it because the agenda is controversial. If your plan is to limit the amount of brown or non-white people who are in this country, the United States, then your agenda is backwards. And let me tell you why your agenda is backwards and it don't make no sense. They are trying to limit the amount of people coming to this country through immigration. One of the strengths of the United States is the fact that America is able to replenish itself by the people coming into this country. When you look at countries like Japan, Germany, Russia, a lot of these countries, they have aging population. There are less people being born than are replaced. There are less people dying than are being born. And it has serious implications. Birth control has serious implications. It can crash your economy or it can make your economy improve. That's another story for another day. So anyway, white people are worried that they will be replaced. The statistics says by 2030, 2050, there will be more black and brown people in this country than white people. And it has implications for voting and for demographics and everything. So they are trying to limit by all of them something. Part of here's where the whole agenda now gets skewed. Abortion. Black people have more abortion than white people. Almost 4 times more black and brown people throw away their babies before they are born, aka they have abortion.
Why is that?
So what is wrong with the white people agenda that I have a problem with? If you do not want to be replaced, and your agenda is to prevent people from having abortion, mathematically, what is going to happen is that more black and brown people are going to have more babies and then you will still be replaced.
So you
So
think this
yeah,
law is based on that?
it is. Let me explain something to you. What a lot of people don't know. White people play the long game.
Mm,
Let me explain the long game. We as black people, and this is to our detriment, we think in terms of the next paycheck, we think in terms of the next generation, we think in terms of short term.
okay.
White people play the long game. When Hitler was around, Hitler was planning the Third Reich to last 1,000 years. Yes? White people think about 5 generations down the line. So they will plot a scheme for 50 years. Like, for example, they have been plotting for 50 years to get rid of the law in America, Roe versus Wade. People can go look it up. 50 years. Everything that they have been doing for the past 50 years from that law was passed and became the law of the land was to bring us to today where they could get rid of the law. They play the long game. That's why they are good at what they do. They will ensure that they put people into the local government, into state government, and get them into federal government so that they can get the law that they want. They play the long game. But the problem is that sometimes the game that they're playing is backfiring on them. 'Cause this one is sure to backfire on them. And I'm going to tell you one more thing. I said earlier that one of the greatness of America is that America is able to replenish itself by people coming into this country. The Spanish, the Asian, the Jamaicans, the Caribbean people. That's what's the strength of America, the diversity of its population that comes in and replenishes it over time, over time, over time. Countries that are not able to do that are having problems. Japan, as one of the great economies in the world, is having a problem right now. If China does not invade Taiwan in the next, let us say, 5 years, they won't have enough soldiers that can stand up and fire a gun because they're getting old. America doesn't have that problem. But if the immigration agenda that the Republicans are having their head and want to pursue, if the anti-abortion agenda that they have in their heads and want to pursue, if it becomes successful, this country is going to be grinding to a halt soon. Think about it. If you get rid of 11 million Mexicans out of this country, who is going to reap the grapes and the fruits that you eat? Hmm? Because white people don't want to work. It is all part of a program, a plan, a policy, an agenda. But I can tell you this much, it's not going to work. And I'm going to close by saying this, that we as black people, we're not paying attention. We don't read enough. We're busy buying shoes and clothes and fancy cars and going to this and doing all kind of something and singing rap songs and whatever it is. We're not paying attention to the agenda that is unfolding around us. And I'm going to say this again. I'm going to say this, the final thing. If we don't get up and go vote in this next election, the next president who odds are might not be Biden, but might be Donald Trump, I'm going to promise you this. If he gets back into the White House, you ain't going to get rid of him. And if you think things are bad now, if you think the last 4 years was crazy, oh, you better buckle your seatbelt because we're going on a roller coaster ride. Because all of these things that we are seeing are going to happen at full speed, full throttle. The anti-abortion agenda, the immigration agenda, all of these things. For those of us who study history, my love. This is how Hitler was successful in Germany. He did these things subtly and gently over time, and nobody was paying attention. And the next thing you know, almost 12 million Jews and others, because it wasn't Jews alone, because I keep talking about how many million Jews were slaughtered. Anything that was non white was considered a disease and was to be gotten rid of. We are getting back there, but we are not paying attention because we're so busy. You see, let me say this. A lot of the things that we find to be fun today are all geared and engineered to distract us. The YouTube that we are broadcasting this on. Useful tool, but very distracting. TikTok, um, Instagram. Oh, we're busy looking at twerking videos, and we're looking at cat videos, and whatever it is. Hey, look over there. Nothing is happening over here. But over here, the agenda is set and fulfilling because we're busy looking at the distraction over there. That's how. Why you think Donald Trump is so successful? Hey, I'm going to say something crazy tomorrow. So we're busy listening out for what he's going to say crazy tomorrow while his agenda is being fulfilled. We are not paying attention. And this law in Alabama, I think the state is an example of us not paying attention, and things are happening, and there are consequences for these things, and we're gonna feel them. But when we're gonna feel them, and when we're gonna feel the effects of them, it's gonna be too late. And at that time, we're gonna say, "Oh, I didn't know." Oh, when all of this take place, people, you need to wake up, pay attention. I will speak more on the matter at a later date, but I think I've said enough about it tonight. Peace out. Hello.